I am Miss Water. Green works for me, attracts me, droplet by droplet from the clouds on high, collects me in catchment areas where I meet others just like myself. We unite, a gentle current, and flow to give life. I am Miss Air. Green works for me, takes in excess carbon dioxide, giving out clean oxygen, so I can be fresh all day long. I am Onudi. Onudi, Lois, Awur. Green works best for me. I get food, I get clean water, I get fresh air, I get a reserve for wildlife, I get medicine, I get breathtaking ambience. Countless resources, yeah? In a nutshell, I think I get life. So, would you like a piece of what I have? Would you?
The Kenya Vision 2030 aspires to transform Kenya into a globally competitive and prosperous country with a high quality of life by 2030. Agriculture is identified as a key sector in achieving the envisaged 10% annual economic growth rate. The agricultural sector is the backbone of Kenya's economy and the means of livelihood for a majority of the Kenyan people.
It's not a secret, Kenya relies heavily on agriculture for its revenue, as a critical component in ensuring the achievement of food security for all, employment creation, income generation, and poverty reduction, in a nutshell, in the well-being and the economic development of our country.
Oftentimes people think, well, if you're modern, you don't do agriculture anymore. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. If you don't do agriculture, you don't eat. Absolutely. And that's the most important goal of any society, to sustain itself and to sustain the next generation.
Farming in Kenya has for many years been mainly small-scale and rain-fed, with inadequate institutional and infrastructural support.
In the recent past, the agricultural sector has registered low growth, mainly due to prolonged drought, high energy costs, high input prices, high cost of credit, and global economic recession, among other issues.
The ordinary farmer, the fellow who is doing market.
In 2004, the government of Kenya launched the Strategy for Revitalizing Agriculture, SRA. SRA was developed in line with the Economic Recovery Strategy for Wealth and Employment Creation, which was replaced by Vision 2030 as the new blueprint for Kenya's development.
Furthermore, agriculture sector ministries have developed the Agricultural Development Strategy to position the sector strategically as key driver for delivering the economic growth rate envisaged under the Economic Pillar Vision of 2030.
The Agricultural Sector Development Strategy, ASDS 2010 to 2020, emphasizes the importance of using a sector-wide approach in developing agriculture into a successful and competitive commercial sector.
Towards the end of 2007, we came to a conclusion that we needed now to do another strategy that would focus on development rather than revival. We wanted to move from focusing on production of raw material into doing agriculture as a business.
The National Agricultural Sector Development Forum provides an information exchange platform for stakeholders where they review progress in implementation of the sector strategies and the extent to which national objectives are being met.
Southern Africa, where they're taking whole communities.
This program highlights some of the achievements in the sector from the last forum, with specific reference to activities in the SRA, the ASDS, and specifically Vision 2030 flagship programs.
We feel quite encouraged that the agricultural sector, despite the vagaries of weather, can be hit as bad as it was in 2008 to negative factors, negative numbers in terms of growth. 2007, it went as down as -4. In 2008, then 2009, it went as down as -2. Just to kick back again, in 2010, it grew to positive 6.4. That has not been recorded frequently in the history of this country.
Today, because of this continued progress of the dairy sector, the milk production rose from 2.2 billion liters in 2002 and now stands to close to 6 billion liters every year. We have surpassed our local consumption, and now we are exporting about 2 million liters of milk and other dairy products to our neighboring countries in the commercial market and even to the Arab world. With the support of bilateral donors, we were able to create what we call economic hubs, where we put a cooling plant in an area of dairy producing. Then communities get together around this cooling plant and they supply their milk to this cooling plant. Therefore, they are able to wait longer. For about 72 hours, this cooling plant will keep the milk fresh. And therefore, they can decide to sell to KCC or to Brookside, depending on who gives the better price. Also, around this cooling plant, there has developed economic activities because AI services will now be put next to this cooling plant. Then the agrovet is also put there. And then the banks have realized a potential and they are putting a front office banking services there. And all of a sudden, a small shopping center then develops around this cooling plant. I usually joke to say that even the Wazes, now they don't go to the Eldoret town to drink because a bar has come up there, and therefore the money circulates within there. And the mama is very close by. When he drinks too much, he just picks him and brings him home before he finishes all the money from the boom. In the beef sector, Kenya Meat Commission is now on the path of recovery and full operation. In fact, it has posted for the first time 18 million profit. We are now exporting live animals to Mauritius. While we think this is a gain, we would like to curtail on sending out unfinished products.
We are #1 tea exporter in the world. That is relatively competitive. Take horticulture. We are #1 flower exporter in the world. We know we have surplus of bananas. A lot of our bananas are going to Sudan. Quite a bit of our bananas are already going to Zanzibar. We may not be quite sufficient in certain commodities, and more specifically on maize. We may not be quite sufficient on rice. We may not be quite sufficient on wheat. In fact, on maize, we are sufficient most of the time, except in the years of drought. But by and large, we know we have the potential.
There's also that deliberate effort on the part of the government and on the part of the cooperative movement to attract the youth to cooperative activities. Because the realization now is that cooperative activities may be the only alternative to wealth creation in a country like ours, the only alternative to poverty elimination in a country like ours and in the region, as a matter of fact.
The fisheries sector contributes 0.5% of the gross domestic product. The artisanal fishery accounts for almost all the inland and marine water catches. But aquaculture in the country is developing fast.
The government also constructed over 46,000 fish ponds in 160 constituencies countrywide, stocked them with over 38 million fingerlings, increase the area under aquaculture from 722 hectares to 14,000 hectares, and increase national aquaculture production from 4,220 metric tons to 20,000 metric tons, which is about 9% of the national fish production, overtaking our marine fish production, which stands at 7% of the national fish production. Within the aquaculture development value chain, the government has created direct employment for over 150,000 fish farmers, short-term employment for over 1 million youths, and indirect employment for over 500,000 other Kenyans.
I have a place along the stream. When I plant maize and beans, I rarely harvest enough, not even a bag. So I decided I can try the fish ponds. I was approached by the government to produce fingerlings. I started producing 2011, and I've seen the results. It's good. I was able to supply to the government 200,000 fingerlings at 7 shillings per fingerling. That was 1.4, which was very good in 1 year, and I'm really happy with fish farming. If I'm given a chance to choose between maize and fish farming or sugarcane, I would prefer fish farming.
In Kenya, fish eating is associated with some communities.
As a result of my farming here, I have also encouraged very many people around here to grow fish and to eat fish. I am a fan of eating small fish of about 100 grams. 100-gram fish, you only gut, remove the intestine, the scales, and the gills, and then you roast it. And then when it gets brown, you eat everything, eyes, ears, even the tail. It's very sweet and it's very nutritious. You know, it's small, it has got all what it matters. I'm doing a lot of tilapias, and now in 2010 I started catfish. Catfish is the mudfish propagation.
But Mr. Kiama does not only keep food fish.
Then I sank that one and this one, where I spawned over 15,000 goldfish. And then I diversified from one goldfish, because ornamental fish varieties are very many. There are over 49 species of ornamental fish. Now I have 8 different species from the simple goldfish, and I'm selling all this to customers in Nairobi, Mombasa, let me say in most towns of Kenya, and also I'm selling to Uganda and Dar es Salaam.
Vision 2030 identifies consolidated agricultural reforms as one of the key flagship projects. This will harmonize the legal framework.
We have the first food security and nutrition policy in the country, which is now sessional paper number 1 of 2012. We have the National Agricultural and Livestock Extension Policy, again the first one since the history of this country, or since independence, which is sessional number 4 of 2011.
Land reforms will have implications on agricultural development, as it will ensure equitable land for agriculture.
What is land and the various categories of land. Under the Section 75 of the old Constitution, there was no reference to the word land. It was basically a reference to property.
There is a growing need to improve the sustainable use of available land and natural resources to increase agricultural productivity.
Climate change problems are with us, and while global discussions on this issue continue, we must conserve our water seriously. We must employ whatever available technology to use less water, recycle water, and harvest water.
Conservation and protection of water catchment areas is one of the core mandates of the environment sector.
It's a challenge for all of us, not just this team which is here, but for the whole country, to make our environments conducive for clean and sustainable living.
Over 3 million seedlings were planted to rehabilitate the Eastern Mau forest, covering 1,200 hectares. For sure, we cannot forget the rehabilitation of our Nairobi River. Yes, water is life. To promote productivity and food security, areas under irrigation have been increased. Rehabilitation of irrigation schemes has seen resumption of production in public schemes. Arid and semi-arid lands irrigation projects have been undertaken to support the small-scale farmers in Turkana and Tana Delta regions of the country.
Sisi tunaweza kutengeneza nchi yetu iwe kama kule Israeli. Manake hapa tuko na bahati, tuko na maji ya kutosha. Iko ziwa hapa na maji vilevile iko hapa chini ya ardhi. Mvua vilevile inanyesha. Kwa hivyo hakuna haja ya watu wa Turkana kuwa kila mara chakula inatoka Nairobi, inatoka Eldoret, Kitale inakuja hapa. Nataka kuona kama chakula inatoka Turkana na kwenda kulisha watu wengine huko.
In 2008, we have done an irrigation scheme in Kimiroluch, which is going to address over 3,000 households. We have revived the Tana Delta irrigation scheme, which is now employing almost 1,500 people.
We plan to have a local fertilizer manufacturing industry, but meanwhile, mechanisms through which farmers can access affordable inputs such as fertilizers have been established.
The government, working together with the cooperative movement, has formed the Kenya Farmers Cooperative Union for input supply, and we think that this input supply union is going to play the kind of role that the Kenya Farmers Association used to play in those days before it was brought down by mismanagement and corruption.
The government and development partners have crucial roles to play in the implementation of the agricultural sector development strategy and the agricultural sector development in general.
We are convinced that investing in agriculture is one of the most high-impact, cost-effective strategies available for reducing poverty and saving and improving lives. That's why we have made this a signature element of our nation's foreign policy.
Recently, the Development Partners Group and the government have undertaken a study to see if donor contributions are aligned to government's priorities laid down in the agricultural sector development strategy. So, on one hand, we have to advocate on our development partner side to see the need for more investments in agriculture, and on the other hand, the government of Kenya also needs to create a favorable framework where we can easily come in with our support.
It is true that smallholder farmers are more in number than large-scale farmers in Kenya. But smallholder farmers' ability to produce more and become competitive market suppliers is limited by lack of resources. Various financial institutions are now offering credit facilities to these farmers. This has enabled smallholders to increase productivity and move to farming as a business. Did you know that most farmers in Kenya are over 60 years? To achieve the innovative, modern and globally competitive agricultural sector, we have to make this sector more attractive for young entrepreneurs.
There has to be urgently measures to engage the youth in agriculture, and I think we are already in discussions. We have to make agriculture attractive as a business. So it starts with the agricultural training, that we also try to contribute to reform the training programs to really tailor it to the needs of the sector.
The private sector as an engine of growth is crucial for catalyzing as well as facilitating development and strengthening the national and regional agricultural trade.
Let's look at our situation. We've got a lot of small farmers. We've got a lot of small farmers who are really doing the primary production.
Private sector can play a pivotal role in the development and further commercialization of the agricultural industry in our region. We must therefore strive to create a more enabling environment for the public-private sector participation in agricultural trade by reducing transaction costs, such as those which are brought about by tariff and non-tariff barriers, as well as infrastructure constraints.
Enough said. But where do we go from here?
The question of now, depending on the rain-fed agriculture, we felt that it should be addressed in totality. So using these river waters to address the question of power generation, storing some water for irrigation and some water for domestic and industrial supply. And that is the introduction, we are going for the introduction of multi-purpose dams. Since 2008 or 2009, we have been involved in the studies of these rivers. And so far, we have done studies on 6 rivers. That is River Tana, and we have come up with the High Grand Fall there, which is able to give us an electricity of about 500 megawatts. In fact, it will improve to 700 megawatts and store water, which is enough to irrigate 250,000 hectares of acres of land in Tana Delta.
Looking ahead, we are now creating disease-free zones, and we are mandated to have 5 disease-free zones by the end of Vision 2030. The coast disease-free zone is on progress. The feasibility study has been done. Environmental impact assessment has also been done. The design has been done. And every year the government is putting in close to 1.4 billion, including this year. In the highly densely populated areas, we are really promoting rabbit rearing. And rabbit is becoming quickly a very easily managed animal that can fetch very good price. Camel is also coming up to be an animal of the future because of its ability to withstand very difficult environmental conditions. And the meat and the milk of the camel is also slowly being acceptable even among communities that have always been not very familiar to it.
We've got money from the Treasury to restructure dairy sector in Bungoma and the ginaries in Bungoma.
The much talked about Vision 2030 flagship project actually passes through the arid and semi-arid areas. So if we develop agriculture along that corridor, then we will be developing arid and semi-arid areas. Fortunately, it also happens that the upset corridor is passing along very fertile portion of the Tana Delta. And we have come up with actually 6 major programs, but 3 have been well developed. One is the development of beef industry in the northern side of the corridor, starting from Isiolo, moving all the way to Laikipia. The second is the development of the sugar industry along the Tana Delta. And the third is the development of fruit industry, more specifically the mango industry, very close again to the Tana Delta. We are talking to investors who may want to come and invest in making those business cases a reality.
AIC.
Watch more agricultural documentaries at www.youtube.com/AIRC video unit.